Hello, I'm Andrea, and welcome to the Mainstream Reiki YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm responding to a viewer's question. Gavin from Australia wrote to ask me, as a new Level 2 Reiki practitioner, what basics would I recommend he get together before he sees Reiki clients? I thought this was an excellent video topic, and so I decided to do this video for you, even though I do have a web page designed for this, because I've been teaching Reiki for many years, and Gavin's question, I've heard it a few times before. So if you'd like to see that web page where I've put some things together for you to consider for your Reiki space, the address there is mainstreamreiki.com/favorites. I'm going to talk primarily about 2 or 3 things in this video that are on there. So let's get started. First and foremost, I would say a Reiki table. Please get a Reiki table. It will help your posture. It will help your client, whoever it is that you are offering Reiki to, whether you're a professional or not. I always use the word client. But it will help your client be able to relax. It will help your posture as you're holding those hand placements. The last thing you want to do is not be able to reach, the right or left side of their body because they're on a couch or something and have to lean over. And boy, I tell you, if you hold a posture, if you hold a hand position for 3 minutes, woo, that's a long 3 minutes if you're uncomfortable. The good news is, over the years, massage tables have expanded to all different price points, and you can get a really quality table for pretty inexpensive. There are some things, though, to consider when you start looking at getting a Reiki table. One thing that I would bring your attention to would be the size of the table itself. There are some clients who are wider, often men. I've had clients that are over 6 feet tall and also very broad. And if you have a client like that, I wouldn't recommend trying to put them on a 27 or 28 inch wide table. And also, most of the tables come a pretty standard length. I think it's around 72 inches. Don't quote me on that. But if you have a really tall client, you can always put the headrest in the top of the table. All of these tables come with a face cradle is what they call them, and you can put that in, and then you can put a pillow over top of that, and it's really stable, quite stable. And so a tall client can kind of inch their way up there and rest their head on that pillow you've placed on the face cradle, and it gives them a few extra inches so that their feet aren't really hanging too far off the table, if at all. Another thing for you to consider about your table would be the weight of the table. If you have a practice where, let's say, you're getting a professional office space and you're going to set that up and that's where you're going to do Reiki, it doesn't really matter how heavy your table is because you're really not going to move it around. On the other hand, if you're practicing more at home, or if you want to have a business where you go to certain locations and offer Reiki, maybe even home visits, whatever that might be, but if you need the ability to be mobile and offer Reiki, the weight of the table is really going to come into play. And that's an important consideration. They're big and bulky anyway, so they're a little bit hard to maneuver. And so the weight is just another factor for you to consider with that. You can find online tables listed as portable, but those also vary in weight. So take a look at the weight. I would opt for a lighter one in comparison to others. It might not be the most plush table out there, but if portability is an issue, you'll thank yourself later for getting that lighter table. Also, if you are going to be moving your table around, you might consider getting what is called a table skate. The tables usually do come with a big carry bag. Some companies offer their bag and they're pretty cheesy. I mean, they really come apart easily. They're not very strong in their construction. But other companies like Earthlight, they really do give you a nice sturdy bag that holds up to moving it and transporting it around. Now, a table skate, though, as I mentioned, it looks kind of like a skateboard and it has 2 straps. And I'll go ahead and put a link to the one that I like down in the description. That's also on that web page that I mentioned earlier. Now, what a table skate does is it looks like a skateboard, and you put your table that's folded up, of course, on this wooden skate kind of thing, because it has wheels on the bottom and it has 2 sets of straps. And so you strap your table to it and then you just wheel it right down the hall. You're not gonna have to wear that strap over your shoulder and carry it. I'm not very tall, and I'm not all muscular, so for me to move my table around, it's a little bit of a hassle for me. So the table skate has been great, because at my professional office building, my Reiki office is down the hall, a little bit of a ways from where I teach my Reiki classes, so I could just strap my table one at a time just on here and zoom it down to the classroom, unload it, go back, get the next one. So if you're teaching Reiki, you actually need a lot of tables for your students to practice on. Of course, the table skate's not going to help you out too much with stairs, but it's just another thing to consider. Everybody's Reiki practice is going to be a little bit unique. One feature you might look for in a massage table is a Reiki end plate, and that is this wooden end plate that goes at each end. It's cut, so if you sit on a stool or a chair at the head or foot of the table during Reiki, you can scoot in closer and get your knees right underneath the table a little bit more. It helps again with your posture, so you're not leaning over your Reiki client. I've had tables with and without the Reiki end plates, and it's really not a deal breaker at all. It's just kind of a nice feature. Earthlight is a brand I really like. They've been around forever. They have quality products, but I will say I needed a table quickly for a Reiki class I was holding. I just didn't have enough tables, and so what I did was I ordered from a website. It was $75 delivered to my door in 2 days. I thought, what kind of table could this possibly even be for $75 delivered like that? But I got the table, I used it in the class, and it was fine. But I will say the wood is just not top quality. I don't expect it to last very much, and I certainly wouldn't use that as my main Reiki table for sessions. It just isn't as sturdy and robust, so I think it'll break down over time, but I just use it sometimes for in-person classes. But your Reiki table is probably the number one expense that you'll have in setting up a Reiki space. Once you have your table, what comes next? Well, I like to sit on a stool at the head of the table when I start Reiki with my clients. I sit on my stool, their head is right there, and I do my preparation and I begin my session like that. So I really like that. So perhaps a stool is a good idea for you to consider too. Another area that we want to think about is our client's comfort. So sometimes we have temperature changes that happen during a Reiki session. I would recommend that you have a nice blanket that you can lay on top of them. You can ask them before the session if they'd like it, but have it handy just in case they get cold during the session. Also, you need pillows and bolsters. Sometimes my clients like 2 pillows under their head. Sometimes they might use a pillow under their hips even. So I've been surprised at how some clients like to make themselves comfortable on the table, but as a responsible practitioner, let's just have the things that they might need ready to go because we've thought about it ahead of time. So a bolster for under the knees is good. They sell different kinds. I use just the round ones. I think they're about 6 inches. So I have one of those, and then for some clients I'll use a bolster and then a pillow on top, and then their knees go on top of that. So just be flexible in your sessions and get your clients comfortable for sure, and that'll help them relax and enjoy the session so much more. A step stool is another great idea. Sometimes our Reiki tables are a little bit higher, again, for our posture, but some of our clients might be a little bit shorter and need a little step up to the Reiki table and step down to your floor. And I have a stool in mind that I have it on that webpage, but basically you're looking for a sturdy medical type grade stool, something that you can clean easily. Mine is stainless steel, it's got rubber feet, and then a rubber mat on top so that there's no slipping. And then at the end of the session, at the beginning of the session, it's already waiting for them at the side of the table. I have that in preparation before they come in. And then at the end of the session, I move it back because I move it out of the way so that I can go around the table and not worry about tripping over it. So I have that at the end of the session. It helps them get off the table with ease. The next area for us to consider about what you need for seeing clients is the atmosphere of your Reiki space. I like to use a candle, which is just battery operated, just for safety and ease for myself. But I use a candle. It's flameless. It's by Luminara. You can see it back here on my shelf, and I love it because people actually believe it's real and they'll think they're going to burn themselves on it. It is so lifelike. There's movement with the flame, so to speak, and then a light shines up on it. I mean, you just can't beat it. I love this candle. I have them at my house now too, and in my Reiki office. It helps create a nice glow, along with a salt lamp that I have in my Reiki space as well, because at my office what I do is I turn off all the overhead lights when we get ready to start, and I have a small little low wattage light, a lamp on my desk in my office, so that is on all the time. But then I have the candle in one area of the room, and then over near the Reiki table, I have a nice big salt lamp. And under my Reiki table, I even have another little lamp, and it's surrounded by selenite. So it's a crystal selenite lamp, and it's under the table because remember when I said I sit at the head of my table? Well, it illuminates that area in the corner for me so I can see, my feet and the floor and, anything I have down there. It just makes it nice for my ability to see my space when the lights are dim. So lighting is pretty important, and it really does set the mood in your Reiki room. And in my description, you'll notice that all of my lights were, either desk high or lower. And that's important because as people relax, I don't want them to have light interfering with their eyes closed. That can be distracting. And, often they'll see colors and different things with their eyes closed. And I just want to make sure that my lighting isn't interfering in any way. Of course, I think every Reiki session is better with music, but it's important to pick the right music. I have some titles on that webpage, but in short, Merlin's Magic, I like them. What I have to say lately, what I've been using is I created a playlist from these 2 CDs. They're called the Reiki Effect 1 and the Reiki Effect 2. And I love that music. Some of the songs are a little bit shorter, but it's very cohesive sounding, relaxing in and of itself. And I made the playlist because there are some songs on one of the albums, I think it is, and there's chimes in between the tracks on a few of them. And while the chimes are nice, it's distracting. It doesn't really meld in with the rest of the music. So I just took those out, and I created a playlist of only the songs that went together, had no distracting sort of noises or breaks in them. And I created that playlist, and I'll just put it on repeat. And when my session's over, I just turn the speaker off so we don't hear it anymore. But then when my next client comes in, I can just turn the speaker on, and that music is just on a continual loop. Or if you restart the music each time, then what you can do is you learn which songs are where in the playlist, and it kind of helps guide you through the session. When you hear that one certain song, you're like, oh yeah, I'm about halfway done. But then when you hear a song further down, it's like, okay, I think it's about time to wrap up. Which brings me to another idea, and that's to have clocks around your space. I have 3 clocks around in my Reiki space, and I'm very sensitive to sound during my Reiki session, so none of my clocks tick. That can be really distracting. But I have a schedule to keep when I see clients, and so my next client's going to be coming, so it's very important that I keep sort of on time with my clients. So I have, as I said, 3 clocks, so no matter where I am around the Reiki table, I can just easily look up and see what time it is. I don't have to strain or look or anything like that. It's just very easy. So clocks, that's a really good tip for you, to have clocks if you need to watch the time for your sessions. Speaking of distractions, make sure that all your devices are on Do Not Disturb, that nothing's going to go off and interrupt your session with your client. Now that we've talked a little bit about sound, the sense of sound for your client, why don't we talk a little bit about smell? Some Reiki practitioners would like to use diffusers for essential oils in their office space, or they'll even put essential oils on them and then they'll do the session, like maybe lavender or something like that. Maybe they'll put a drop on the pillow, things like that. And that's, if you want to do that, that's fine. I just want to give you my perspective on that. I am, during my sessions, and I of course go to Reiki sessions by other people as well, I do not like any smell. And the reason for that, and this is probably why I don't like music that gets my brain either, gets my attention. I'm quite intuitive in my sessions, and so I'm opening up all my senses for that person, for that session. What I have found is if there is a scent in the room, it is very overpowering to me, even if it's just a little bit, because I'm really opening up my senses. I'm very in tune, and I find that very distracting. So even a nice scent like lavender is distracting to me, and I would just prefer not to have any of that, whether I am receiving Reiki or whether I am offering Reiki. It's difficult for me. I know essential oils can have some really good benefits to them, and I get that. It's just something to think about. People can be very sensitive to them. So on your intake form, if you want to use them in your session, you might talk to them beforehand. You might ask their permission to do that instead of just, putting it on and going forward. Allow them to have a say in that if that's important to you. On a final note, crystals, a lot of us love crystals, and I do have a couple of crystals in my office, but mine are pretty low key. I have a very dark smoky quartz that I like to have in there just for grounding. Sometimes after my clients, when I'm taking my notes, I'll just sit with that grounding crystal as I'm writing my notes down on my paper. Another one, I mentioned, was the selenite lamp under my table. So I have that crystal, but people can't see that. That's really hidden under my table. I have a skirt around my table, which hides my things that I store underneath there. So that's a little clever idea for you if you're interested in more storage space. But because, I'm mainstream Reiki, my office is in a medical building. When people walk by, I just don't have a lot of things out. Like crystals all over the walls, or any dream catchers or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with that kind of thing, but my business, my vibe, so to speak, that I'm putting out there at my workplace is mainstream. So make sure your Reiki space reflects your vision for your Reiki practice, and that's really important. We've covered several different topics about basics to get together before you start seeing Reiki clients. I hope it's been helpful. So until next time, of course, I wish you the highest Reiki blessings. If you found this video helpful at all, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You're certainly invited to reach out to me and let me know about any other topics that you feel would make good videos here on the Mainstream Reiki YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching.